Round doesn't exist, and I'm going to prove it to you.
Maybe she sees the sinner.
We are talking The Haunting of the Lady Jane, and this is by writer-director Canal. And this is a low-budget British horror movie, and I'll best describe this as a quiet horror movie. It's a kind of dramatic movie that actually has themes deeper than the kind of initial ghost story that it kind of promises. Now, what is the story here? Well, it primarily focuses on three characters. Our kind of lead character, Lily, is a writer who has, all characters actually have a lot of baggage, with emotional baggage, and I won't tell you what exactly they all are, but Lily has some emotional baggage and shame from some issues with her family that will kind of get revealed as the film goes on. We have Zara, who is a kind of a young Muslim kind of influencer, and she has again some kind of like baggage towards her kind of family, and these two girls don't actually know each other at the beginning of the movie, but Lily kind of wants to write her next book and wants kind of to talk to Zara, who, as I say, is this influencer from kind of a Muslim background, to get like some idea for an idea for her next kind of like work. So they kind of meet up in Camden Town in London, and they decide to go on this kind of canal boat up to Birmingham, as there is someone kind of offering a free trip. And this is our third character, Willard, who is this kind of strange religious guy, an older guy who seems a little bit off kilter, and again he clearly has some emotional baggage as well to do with his kind of ex-wife. And the three of them sit across the kind of the country, discussing various things, unravelling secrets. And we learn that there is this famous ghost story about this water spirit called Ran, who is based on a kind of a Nordic spirit of a woman in white, so to speak, who essentially takes interest in sinners who are on the water and kind of wants their souls, etc. Now, along the way, we are our kind of trio of characters bump into a few things, anything from doggers to a potential thugs to potential spirits on the water. Now, lives may be in danger. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So canal boats, I'm not quite sure how many kind of countries may have this, to be honest. So it might be, some countries may not even know what I'm talking about. There are these long boats that we have in the UK that, are a kind of considered to be a very idyllic kind of pastime, but some people are very enthusiastic. Some people even live on them. I've actually been on a canal boat holiday and kind of travelled the waterways, so to speak, and it attracts a kind of a certain type of person, I would say. It's quite slow moving, quite kind of idyllic. And there have been one or two movies that have had canal boats as a backdrop, but not a lot, if I'm honest. So it has this kind of somewhat of a unique feeling, and there's all this kind of like, the water has this. Once you're on the kind of the water, it's a sort of different rules apply kind of thing. So now, what works in this movie? So I think this setting, this kind of this canal boat ghost story, so to speak, does give it a certain originality and a certain kind of flavour that I feel makes this movie unique in many ways. Obviously the kind of these boats are long and kind of like narrow, sometimes called narrow boats. Which gives it this kind of strange kind of perspective, obviously, when we're inside it. And there is some really nice photography here as well. Some great use of kind of framing in regards to the cameras and things like that, just showing these canalways with boats, in contrast with the kind of the natural environment and the moonlight and things like that. Some truly kind of beautiful photography here as well. And it's coupled, I think, with a very haunting soundtrack. which I have to say, I'm not one of these people who don't notice a lot about soundtracks, to be honest, unless they're quite strong. And I did feel this one did plus the story quite a lot. It's a little bit overpowering at times, I will say, but I actually kind of like the music. It just could have been a little bit less on the volume, a little bit, I would say. One of the more interesting elements, I think, with this movie is, yes, there is supernatural elements involved here. And there's also some other kind of antagonistic forces at work, you might say. But it's really about, this movie is really about how people deal with their own trauma, essentially. I don't want to give too much away here, but all three of these people have either baggage or secrets, or I feel guilt and things like this. And ultimately it's detailing with what you do with that, how you deal with it, you know, who do you talk to, who do you ask for help, who can you turn to? And we have different scenarios about how each of these kind of characters might deal with this kind of situation and how people might react in kind of different ways. And that, to be honest, is the real story. Again, there are supernatural elements involved, but that's actually it's less about that. And it's more about one's personal demons, you might say, rather than kind of like literal demons that are kind of outside, so to speak. So it makes it a kind of a psychological horror movie in many ways. And I have to say, that side of things was quite well handled, because it kind of feels like it's done pretty naturally, and it makes you think about these things without kind of just being too overt, stopping the movie to sort of tell you what's kind of going on. So in regards to the kind of the writing and that sort of stuff, I actually thought that was quite cleverly handled. I think the character is Zara, who is our kind of influencer Muslim girl. So, you know, she's a very kind of likable character. So I quite enjoyed her, but kind of the character and the kind of the performance there. And there are some kind of like elements from other members of the cast that I kind of quite enjoyed as well. I think this movie as well, it sort of buries the lead a lot of it, where it's going and kind of what dangers are potentially out there, because, you know, sometimes it might not, there are other characters that will come kind of in and out, and you're not quite sure what it is you're looking at in many ways. So, you know, it kind of makes it somewhat of an unpredictable film in a certain aspect, which I kind of quite enjoyed there as well. And then obviously it's a low budget movie, and I feel like on a technical level, the production, generally speaking, is is pretty well put together for what is clearly kind of such a kind of a low budget production. And I think if you were a fan of like the classic kind of English kind of haunting movie, the slow burn sort of BBC drama kind of style ghost stories that you would have seen on kind of television, and maybe some movies I've definitely reviewed a few here on the channel, then I think maybe you'll want to check this one out. What doesn't work for me, I mean, the budget is clearly quite low. It does kind of show at times. I have to say, if I had to level some critiques about this movie, our character of Lily comes across as a little bit unlikable, I have to be honest. I mean, you could have a drinking game about how many times this character rolls her eyes, and I think she's quite dismissive, for example, about Zara's religion, her aspirations to become an influencer, and some other kind of things through the movie as well. So I found her character to be a little unlikable. The acting is a little bit of a mixed bag. I think Zara and the actor who played Zara was probably the strongest. The other two in the trio had mixed moments, I would say. Some I thought were okay, some I thought were a little weaker as the film goes on. So there are some elements from those performances which I kind of liked in certain sequences, but there are some weaker sequences as well. I do think the more supernatural elements could have been a little bit more pronounced, I think. I think it's a little bit too subtle, if we're being completely honest, in regards to what's actually kind of going on with that. And the VFX are low budget, so don't be expecting anything too kind of grandiose or spectacular kind of on screen. And I don't know, obviously budget's a difficult thing to overcome when you're an independent low budget, production, but maybe there could have been some other ways that could have been handled potentially. But yeah, don't be expecting anything too kind of like high high budget on screen or any kind of thing like that. The movie feels like it's possibly a little bit slow for some, I would say. It's a little bit of a kind of a slow, cerebral, thoughtful movie in many ways, but it's not exactly a thriller minute kind of jump scare type movie. So again, it's going to be more of a kind of a sort of taste thing. And there are some logic issues I would kind of point out. Again, I'm not going to go into specifics. So overall, I think this movie will come down to a lot of it about taste. Do you like this kind of lower budget, but very kind of like slow burn, sort of more dramatic kind of style haunting? And think along the lines of kind of like Wuthering Heights to a certain degree, but you know, obviously we're talking about contemporary times on a canal boat, but it gives you that sort of like that classic kind of literature feel, I would say. It's not going to be for everyone, but those who enjoy that sort of movie, I think maybe get a lot out of it. But yeah, maybe the kind of some of the kind of the slower elements may put some people off. I'll give it a kind of an average score. It's a 5 out of 10 for me. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.